Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you're doing great. Hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, hope that you are in good health. Once again, my friends, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we talk about here on the Common Sense channel. So once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. So today's topic, or today's talk, we want to discuss on the nature of who God is. Who is God? Is God a man or a spirit? Again, for today's topic, we're going to explore who God is. Is God a man or a spirit? Today I'm going to talk to you because this is one of those topics that I feel that has a lot of contradictions. And if you look at the entire text that the religious people had put together for us, right, called the Bible or called the Quran or whatever is it out there, because I know these are the only two people, and the Torah, whatever they are, these are all organized religion. Whatever organized religion has put out into our world concerning God, because I don't like to say God, I like to say the Almighty or the Spirit, the internal and unforeseen Spirit, the entity that no one sees, no one knows about, has never spoken to anyone other than what people are saying about it. That's who I refer to as the Almighty. And humans, my friends, are God. By the time I finish this video, you will know that humans are God. The concept of God is not exclusive from the human species, because I think God is an abstract. You understand? Just like how you think about things outside of the universe and try to understand whatever is outside of the universe or outside of yourself. God, or the Almighty, is not exclusive from the human experience or from the human being or from the human species. We, my friends, are God, and God is us. You understand? And it's not just me saying this. Not me saying this. It is actually mentioned in organized religious books that in the beginning, when all the gods were speaking, they said, "Come, let's all come together and create something in our image and in our likeness." That would be just like the man telling the woman, "Come, let me lay with you and have babies that will look like us." That's the same thing, but they make it look like it was God speaking. I don't say God, I say Almighty. So let me talk about who God is. God is not a man. And this is for all those people that like to refer to God as a he, him. Start using those pronouns, because you cannot worship any entity that looks like you and exalt that thing above all other creature that looks exactly like that thing. So if God is a man, then you cannot exalt that you call a man. I cannot refer to you as a man and then I exalt you above me. No. Because you and I are both at the same level. I don't care if you are a president, you are a bishop, you are a preacher man, you are a pope. The reason why you're not exalted above me, or I will never exalt you above myself, is because you're going to die. If you're not going to die, you're eternal, you are everlasting, then I can exalt you above myself, because I know you are ancients of days. But humans are not ancients of days. They're going to pass on. So you don't exalt no man. So if God is he, God is a him, then it's a man. So why don't you tell us the truth? But me personally, I don't need the truth from no organized religious people, because organized religious people are businessmen, and in their form of business is they're selling something that someone must have told them in their ears, or maybe God must have spoken according to them. Say God spoke to them. God told them what human needs to know about him. I'll say him again. So let's look at Numbers 23, verse 19, which says, God is not a man that he should lie. You understand? If God is a man, then he cannot lie. You understand? If God is a man, that means he cannot lie. God is not a man. You understand? So for those of you that think God is a man, go read Numbers 23, verse 19. Because either it's a contradiction, because you can find the same thing that I just read in Numbers 23, verse 19, that God is not a man that he should lie, right? You can still find a reference of this same chapter of scripture in Hosea 11:9. You understand? That says basically the same thing, that I am God and not a man. You understand? So Hosea is saying the same thing that Numbers said, that God is not a man. If I'm saying that God is a spirit, God is not a man. God cannot be a man. But again, the God concept is not exclusive from humans, from the human species. So what does that make you? That makes each of us a God. We are a God. And as I've always said, and as I've always argued, that until we realize that we are God, or gods, we, my friends, will never learn to treat each other as we see ourselves, or as we are, God. But we are not almighty. Humans are not almighty. Humans are the ones that produce themselves. We produce ourselves. And because we produce ourselves, we were the ones that were talking in the Old Testament as a male and female, talking to a male talking to a female and telling the female, come together to me, come with me, come, let's procreate, come, let's lay together and have babies. That's what that whole story was about in the book of Genesis. Now I'll leave you another one again. God is a spirit, and according to John chapter 4, verse 24, it says, God is a spirit. Therefore, anyone that must worship God, you must do so in truth and in spirit. Understand? These are people that you, religious people, have reference to, or often reference to, as your source for who God is. Me personally, I'm not referencing any of these individuals. I'm just looking at what I see. And what I see in this world, and what Jesus himself, Yeshua Mashiach, said, that we don't need to look for God in any places, because he's constantly with us. You understand? He, again, The Almighty, which is a spirit, is constantly with us, and therefore that spirit lives within us. The spirit is constantly with us because the spirit is us and the spirit lives in us. You understand? And these are the contradictions. And all of these contradictions, for me personally, I don't have time for all of these contradictions. I'm just looking at what I can see, what I can lay my hand on, and what I can tell based on who I am and what I'm capable of doing as a human being. And then I can look at those characteristics of myself and see the God that I'm looking for within me. You understand? So when you look at all of these things that are around you, those are happening within you, and those that are happening around you, you can almost tell that the Almighty, who I call God, most people call him God, him, but the spirit that I call Almighty is actually me, and it lives within me. And it's that spirit that's in you that quickens you to do those things that are godly, that are righteous, that are good. You understand? And sometimes those things that are bad too. Because even in the scripture it says God, the God in the Bible, organized religious people, the God in the Bible is the author of good and evil. So the same God that they're talking about is the one that produces good, and it's the one that produces evil. So you get it? So this is the same entities that we are talking about and that they have told us about. Remember, God has never spoken to any of these people, organized religion, because they know fully well that human beings, by its nature, by our nature, we are spiritual by nature. We are both flesh and spirit. So when you die, that spirit leaves the body and goes wherever that spirit goes. But the flesh stays here. So we are physical flesh and we are spiritual by nature. So it's easier for us to be religious because we, as humans, we are constantly seeking for whatever is it that's beyond us that we don't understand. And whatever that entity is what we are constantly seeking for. You understand? We're constantly looking for to validate who we are as humans and God. You understand? So that's exactly what we are. God is not a man that he should lie. You understand? So that's the scripture for this particular video. For those of you who say God is a man, God is not a man. And that's what I want to say. I want to clarify this because some of you keep saying he, she, he, him. And you are wrong. You're being misled by these organized religious people that are just capitalizing on human spirituality to explain who God is, when deep down inside of them is the same God that they are looking for. What if we are the gods that we are looking for and don't even know it? So let's talk about the gods of this world. I'm going to give you an example. In 1941, 1942, 1943, 1944, and 1945. During this period of time, there's a group of people in Europe called a European Jew. They were praying to their God in the Talmud or in the Torah, and that God name was Yahweh. They were hoping and praying in the ghettos, in Nazi Germany, and across Europe, wherever fascism was or Nazism was, and they were praying on these people. They pray for 1941, 1942, 1943, 1944. No Yahweh show up, but only humans that show up to save them. You understand? It was human that came from the sky in form of planes, in form of bombs, to save them from the enemies that were bent on annihilating them. So we, humans, are the savior to ourselves. We are the ones, the gods of this world, that start wars, and we, my friends, are the gods of this world that end wars. We are the ones that create everything that are intended to make our lives better, and at the same time that are intended to make our life worse. Humans, my friends, are God on earth. So now, during that time, when the European Jews were hoping and praying for Yahweh to come and save them, when Yahweh didn't show up, guess what? They became resistance. They took up arms to save themselves because no one was willing to come to their rescue. We're talking about 1941, 42, 43. There were resistance of European Jews everywhere in Europe, whether it was in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in Germany, wherever they were, that the Germans had put them in these camps, in these ghettos, with the intention of liquidating them. They had to stand up and fight to free their lives. And for me, that's my favorite part. When people are able to stand up and fight back for themselves and not depend on a fictitious spirit somewhere that is actually you. Only you can rise up and fight for yourself. No one is coming from nowhere to save you. Typical example in recent time, when all of these so-called preacher men, especially those one in America, organized religion, when they have fasted and pray constantly that some help come to Nigeria because they felt that there were Christians in Nigeria that were being prosecuted by quote unquote the infidel or people who they consider as an enemy of their religion, their organized religion. Guess what? They march up to Trump, Mr. Trump, and they say, Trump, we need your help to save the Christians in Nigeria. Why didn't they pray? Why didn't they continue to pray? Why didn't they ask for God to send down fire to rain down in the northern part of Nigeria to rescue and kill all of the people that were destroying their Christians, brothers and sisters in Nigeria? They fasted, they prayed, they fasted, they prayed. Nothing happened. Because let me tell you, only man can solve man's problem. Only man can create man's problem. You understand? So when that didn't happen, they went to the White House with a lying face and went and said, oh yeah, there are Muslim killing Christians in Nigeria. They're trying to kill all the Christians. And then Mr. Trump came from the sky. He was so bold. He says, we're going to save our Christians from the slaughtering that they are doing to them in Nigeria. He came from the sky. He couldn't even put his foot down on the ground. He shot from the sky and then attempted saying that he had killed all the enemies of Christians. You understand? So you see, right? The whole thing here is a big fluke. It's a lie. There is no God coming from nowhere. All of that story that's written in the book they are all lies. There's no recollection of even Abraham, the one that says he's the father of all nations. You cannot find one archaeological evidence saying that Abraham ever existed. You understand? I've done the research. I've looked. Even if you read the story, say, the Egyptian you see, you will see them no more. That one is true, though. Because if you go to Egypt right now, you won't see no black person there. All of them has been replaced by European or Arabs. Most of those Arabs in there, they came from Europe. They settled over there from other parts of Europe. Most of the Arabs in Egypt came there from Europe. And we look at them, they look more Europeans. You understand? So all of that story, it's all fictional. It's all lies. And they know it. Organized religion know it. Because why? God is not a man. Even the book said it, that God is not a man that he should lie. You understand? And that's what we're going to continue to pounce on here. We're going to continue to talk about this. I haven't been doing this for some time because I've been focusing on politics. Here on my channel, I talk about two things: politics and religion. Politics and religion are the same. They both work together. Anywhere you see politics, rampant politics, chronic politics, there's religion on the side. Whenever they're going to war, there's always religion there too. You understand? So religion and politics are the same people. So that's why on my channel, I talk about religion. So there is no God coming from nowhere to save you but yourself. It is human beings that save human beings. Understand? It is human beings that save themselves from other human beings. So the gods of this world, if you don't know, there are the Chinese god, the Russian god, the American god, the European god. The African god, I don't even want to even mention because that god is still asleep. That god is not relevant in the grand scheme of things. The African god is weak, is half dead. But let me tell you, the God of America has an eye that runs throughout the world 24/7. It sees everything that is happening on the planet. The gods of the Russian has eyes. It's called satellite. It's everywhere in the world. It sees everything that is happening in all four corners of the earth. The Chinese gods also has eyes. It sees everything across the globe 24/7. The European gods too is there. But that God is fading away. The European God is not as powerful. You understand? But right now the Chinese, the Russian, and the American gods, these are the gods that run this earth. They have power over life and death. You understand? They can decide who's going to live and who's going to die. That's how powerful these entities are. And these, my friends, are the ones that run this earth. The Chinese God, the American gods, and the Russian gods right now. All the other ones are insubordinate. So when it says, come, let us make man in our image and likeness, it was all of these gods of their time that was speaking. There was human beings on the planet before the creation of Adam and Eve. How do I know this? Because when Cain killed Abel, there was a mark that their God, the European gods, was speaking, was talking about, that he was going to mark Abel, that wherever he goes, people will be out there trying to hurt him. But he's going to talk to those people. He's going to do something so that it saves his life. So if Cain and Abel were the only human beings on the planet, including the mom and the dad, Adam and Eve, then why is that? Why is it that God had to mark him? And then the same God that put a mark on him, that he says he will wander around the earth, but then people are going to kill him, then why would that God mention that there are people that are going to want to try to kill him if they were the only ones on the planet? So there were human beings on this planet, and those human beings were master human beings. They were very powerful, and I believe that those were the ones that were talking in the scripture. Religious people, organized religious people with their lies, they said it was God. It wasn't no God. Wherever God was in the beginning of creation, when he was so-called putting all these things together, including the earth, turning the deep of the water from darkness to light, wherever that God was, it's the same place that God is still today. That God has not moved an inch. Because how can you be in something and create that thing? You have to be exclusive from that thing to create it. You cannot be in a house and build a house on yourself. You have to be outside of the house to build it from the outside into it. You cannot be into it and build it. So God, wherever God was, I don't like to say God because I believe humans are God. You understand? There's so much evidence out here that humans are God. But I believe one day these religious people, they organized religious people, because don't say religious people, just say organized religious people, because that's what they are. They are organized for the sole purpose of deceiving us, for the sole purpose of lying to us, for the sole purpose of telling us things that they themselves don't know. Because if you read the entire text, it's all contradiction in there. At some point, God is saying he's not a man. At some point, God says he's a man. At some point, God says, talks about human beings as being the only human beings on the planet. And then at some point, he says there are other human beings on the planet. So it's just contradiction. But you, as a human being in this day and age, you have to look at this and say it's a lie. So let me tell you a story about the gods of this earth. Recently, the god of Iran was trying to figure out the power of the American gods. The American gods has a god, and his name is Elon Musk. His power was he created something called Starlink. And that Starlink is an eye, a omnipotent eye that sees throughout the world. Nothing can be hidden from him, this God of Elon Musk. So he put the Starlink in Iran. You understand? The Iranians, their God were trying to figure out why is it that their communication system were being bridged. And because they are powerful gods, and there are those gods that are not so powerful but powerful, but they are powerful gods above powerful gods. So the Russians, they send their own god into Iran, and their gods were able to track whatever the signal was coming from the God of America, which is spearheaded by Elon Musk. And because they were able to track the gods of America, they were able to defeat the gods of this country, of America, of the Elon Musk. And they were to breach his communication. You understand? So humans are God. Humans are the ones that are running this whole thing, and humans are the ones that are creating all the problems that we're facing in this world. The day humans decide to be peaceful, this world will be peaceful. The day human technology ceases to exist, the world will be peaceful. You understand? So humans are the ones that are running the affairs of this world. The affairs of this world is not run by no God nowhere. It's not run by no Satan or Satan. It's humans that are running the affairs of this world. So because the Iranians were able to beat back the movement of the God of America in the country or in the territory, it was able to stop whatever was about to happen in the country. You understand? That's how this whole thing works. Every territory has their own gods. The Russian runs their own territory. They have their own gods. And they can see whatever is it the other country or the other gods are doing. So it was these gods, these master human beings, that were speaking in the beginning of that story of Genesis. You understand? It was the God of their time that was speaking in Exodus, in Deuteronomy, in Judges, throughout that Old Testament. You understand? So the God that we are looking for is us. It's no one else. You understand? And it's human beings that runs the affairs of mankind. So who is a God? A God is someone or an entity that has power and dominion over life and every living thing on the planet. It was those same master gods that said in the Old Testament, especially in Genesis, that you, humans, will have dominion over all living thing that walks the earth, that creeps on the earth. Humans must have dominion over all of these things. And that's exactly what humans are doing. Human has dominion over everything that walks this earth. So if you're part of the human race and you don't have dominion over everything that walks this earth, that means your God is weak. And that's what's happening to the continent. The gods of the continents are either sleeping, they are still stuck in the wherever is it they are. They haven't woken up yet to stand up and fight as a powerful God or deity, but the deity of all these other people, the Chinese, the Korean, the Arabs, the Middle Eastern, the Iranians, the Europeans, the Russians. These are all powerful gods. And they, my friends, are running the affairs of men. So each of us, any of us, can be a God on this earth. And we are God. And anyone watching this video, you can say whatever you want. You can say blah, blah, blah. I already laid the foundation for you that we humans are God. Understand? No one is coming here to save you from your predicament, from your trouble, whatever it is that you're going for. You must stand up and fight. You understand? That's exactly what Hamas is doing. You understand? The same thing that those European Jews did in Europe when Hitler was about to annihilate. According to history, it says Hitler annihilated 6 million Jews, European Jews. Had they stood up from the beginning as a resistant group and fight back, that number would have never been 6 million. You understand? But at that moment, they didn't understand that, look, it is us humans that must fight our battles. We must fight for our lives because only us can save our lives. No one can save it for you. No one is going to go. No God is coming from nowhere, my friends, to fight your battles. In recent time, we saw when Donald Trump went to Nigeria to fight for those people. Why is it that when people are crying for democracy in the country, as they want people to believe that, oh, they're crying, they want democracy. Why didn't they send God to give the people democracy? They sent America, you understand, to go and bring democracy to the people. Like in the case of Venezuela. All that time, Hugo Chavez was there. All that time, Maduro was there. Do you think if America had not gone into Venezuela and illegally capture Madurus, do you think he would have still been there? You know how many people are praying that one day Madurus would be removed? They're praying the whole time, never happened, and then all of a sudden America had to go kill all those people in Venezuela just to get one man and his wife. See, that shows you that only man can take care of the affairs of man. And that was clear in World War II. When all these countries had the great men, they call them the greatest generation that ever lived, young men and women, loaded their backpacks with ammunition and guns and bombs, and went to Europe from all corners of the earth to save the people of Europe. From who? From themselves, because they were fighting a civil war amongst themselves. And if had someone never stepped in to save them, it would have, that 6 million would have been 12 million or more. So you understand the thing? It is human beings that come to the rescue of others. When Japan was committing the worst atrocities in China, the Nanking, the rape of Nanking, who came to the rescue of the Chinese? When the Japanese were massacring and committing genocide in China, who came to the rescue? It was the Chinese that had to mobilize themselves to fight against the imperial empire of Japan. Had they sat there and done nothing, what would the history have become? So it is human beings. And then they like to say God is going to fight your battle. It's not true, because God is not coming from nowhere. God is, what kind of God is sit there and watch people do some of the most heinous thing to the innocent and the helpless and done nothing, just sit there and watch? If that God is real, it would come from whatever it is and intervene. But let me tell you, the only gods that intervene are you, humans. You're the ones that had to speak up. You're the ones that had to do something for that action, whatever is it that's been done on another human being, to be stopped. You have to intervene. That's why I'm doing this video, because I'm sick and tired of people worshiping a fictitious God that doesn't exist but exists in them. You understand? That's why I say God. If you want to say God for the sake of my video, right? Does not exist exclusively from the human species. God is actually the human, and the human is actually God. And at least we understand these things, we will never stop looking from outside, but instead we'll look from within, because that's where the solution is. The solution of who God is comes from within and spilled out into the world. Whether it's addressing injustice or wrongdoing to any human being on this planet, is the same human beings, the spirit of the human beings that quickens the human beings to do those things that are right. Understand? And that's exactly what happened in the first war, the Great War. And it's the same thing that happened during the Second War. I call it European Civil War, aka European Civil War, because they like to say World War I, World War II. I just say European Civil War. And that's exactly what it was. So someone must stand up. And if you notice, right, all of the wars that have been fought in history is always between them. It's never been between the least of people, especially those with the weak gods, like Africa. Africa doesn't have a strong gods. The gods of Africa, they're either dead or they're sleeping. And even if they're not sleeping, you understand, they haven't woke up yet. You understand? And the reason is, until the people stand up and decide to do what is right for themselves, because they are God, no one is going to fight the battle. They can pray all they want against colonialism. They can pray all they want against neocolonialism. They can pray all they want against some person trying to manipulate them, to give them incurable disease, to steal their natural resources, to take away. They can pray from now to Judgment Day for France to leave Burkina Faso alone. They can pray all they want for France to leave Niger alone. They can pray all they want for France to leave Mali alone. If they don't stand up and take care of business for themselves, France will never leave them alone. Because you, my friends, are the only one that can fight for your freedom and your liberation. No one is coming from nowhere. No God, no prayer, nothing. And we saw in recent time when those pastors went to Donald Trump to save the Nigerian Christians. What happened to their prayers? Why didn't God come from heaven? You understand? Why didn't God come from heaven to save them if they believe that there's a God above that is exclusive from the human species? Why did they go to Trump? And then Trump is standing up and say, we are going to save our Christians. That was so profound because he shows you that he is a God of this world. This part of the world, America, the government of this country, is the God of this world, this part, this hemispheres. The Chinese, they have their own, they are the God of most of Southeast, North, Southeast Asia. The Chinese run that side. Together, on the other side, the other part of Europe is run by the Russians. They're the gods of that part of Europe. You understand? Every section has their own gods. Some of these gods are weak. Some of these gods are strong. Some of these gods are weak. Some of these gods are powerful. And that, my friend, is exactly what it is. So when things are happening, don't look elsewhere. Don't look in the sky. Don't look in other planet. Look right here on earth, because we are the gods of this world, and they are powerful gods and they are weak gods. They are gods that say, come, let us wage war on another people and take away everything they has, whether they like it, or put all of them in bondage. You understand? And there's nothing those weak people can do. They themselves are God, but they haven't found the God in them. So therefore, they're not empowered to fight as a God. Until they find the God in them, they'll start praying to something else. And that's the reason why I personally believe, you understand? When I do something, I give myself credit for that. I don't give credit to nothing outside of me, because I believe the God that I'm looking for, it's inside of me. So I must give myself credit for whatever is it I do, for whatever I accomplish, good or bad. I still give me a credit for that. I say, thank you, me, for whatever you've done. I say thank you, because I know I have power over life and death. The power of life and death lies in your minds. In each of your minds, if you don't know. It's not in your tongue, it's in your minds. And that's the reason why you see a 90 years old, like Ron Paul. You understand? Ron Paul, I'm talking about Ron Paul Sr. He is 90-some years old. But when that man talks, his brain is so coherent. His thought is precise. I started listening to Ron Paul since 2005. Everything that man has said from that time, today I can see them happening. And I think Ron Paul is going to live to 100 and something years old, because the life that he's going to carry on is in his mind. As long his mind is intact, as long his thoughts are coherent and precise and make sense, that's how longer he'll live. So life and death lies in your mind, the way you think. And that's why you're God. Humans are God. You understand? But we need to know it. And the moment we know it, the longer we're going to live on this planet. We can control when we die if we choose to. We can control how long we live. Because your health, you are the master of yourself. You are the master of yourself. Just like others are the master of themselves. They can decide how they want to, you can decide how you want to live your life. If you can decide how you're going to live your life, so what does that make you? You are the master of your life. I never sit here and say, there's not a God. There's not a God, but I don't say God. I say Almighty. It's a spirit beyond our spirit that watches everything we do. But within us is the spirit. The spirit that's beyond our spirit is not exclusive from us. And it is within us that watches our spirit. So whatever our spirit says is what it agrees with. So if you pronounce to yourself greatness, that's what you be. That spirit that watches above you, that is in you, will agree with your spirit. You understand? You just need to say it and believe it, and it become words. It become power. So that's why we, my friends, are God. The moment we acknowledge that, the moment we see that, the better is it we start to treat others as we treat ourselves. Because if you have reverence for God, if you want to call it God, then you would have reverence for those people that you see as God, and you wouldn't treat them bad. And if you have power and this other person have power, both of your power meet, one has to cave in. And that's how peace come about. Those countries that fight each other, if they all have not all gods has the same capability. Some gods' power are above the other gods' power. So those one that has more power than the others, the other ones that don't have power, don't mess with them. Because they know their power surpasses their power. But it doesn't mean that the other gods that don't have power, they cannot work their way into getting the same power that the other gods has. You understand? That's how this whole thing works. We, my friends, are God. There is a spirit, but it's not a man. Spirit is not a man, and it's in you. And that spirit is in you is the Almighty. And that Almighty is what quickens you to know what's right and what's wrong. You don't need no one to tell you. You don't need organized religion to tell you who God is, because God is you. And God lives in you and dwells and operates through you. So you don't need no one to tell you who God is. Those people that are telling you, they are just tapping into the inner self, and they are telling you what that inner self is telling them. It's what they're projecting to you. Understand? That's why someone can sit on planet Earth and write a book about Jupiter, write a book about Mars, write a book about Pluto without even being on this planet, because they're tapping into the inner self to understand those things that are beyond them, or beyond their imagination, or not beyond their imagination, but they can go beyond their imagination to understand those things that are in other places that they haven't been to. You understand? And present that to you to read. That's the essence of all of the religious texts that we see on this planet. That's the essence. Human being trying to understand those things that are beyond their understanding. But not beyond their understanding in the way that it sounds. Because if it's beyond their understanding, then there's no way they can understand it. But it is something that they understand because it is part of them. The knowledge is coming from within them, and they are putting it out. And that, my friend, is the essence of organized religion. Organized religion is a business, and it's not exclusive from the people that establish it. Because the people that establish it to control those who don't understand who they are. Because you don't need someone to tell you who you are. If you really look deep down inside, you can discover who you are. And that's why I often say at the end of my video, the greatest thing that could ever happen to a person, it's not the day you're born. It's when you discover yourself. Those people that runs organized religion, they discovered themselves long time ago, and they passed that information into a book called religious text. And they try to tell you who God is. They themselves don't even know who God is. Because if they truly know who God is, they won't be going to all of that length to know who God is. Because if you know who God is, I say for the sake of this video, if you know who the Almighty is, you won't even hurt a fly. You won't even do wrong to another human being. You will live a life of humanity, a life for humanity, a life of peace with all men, regardless of who they are, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their race, their gender, whatever it is that they are, you will be at peace with all men. Don't mean that you're weak. It just means that you understand the God element that is you, or that is within you, or that operate from within you, and it's you. So as I've always said in my videos, I don't want my video to be super long because I'm just trying to convey a message. So I want to thank all these people, especially those that are subscribed to my channel, those who consistently are with me, watch my videos, support me. I honor you. I want to thank everyone again for your support. And also, as I've always say, the greatest thing that could ever happen to anyone is not the day you were born, not the day you had your first car, the day you graduated from high school, college, the day you became a lawyer, doctor, whatever it is that you're working on, my friends. The greatest thing, my friends, that could ever happen to you is the day you discover yourself. Because from that moment on, everything will start to make sense to you, including knowing who God is. God, again, my friend, is not a man. It's not a he. It's not a she. It's not a him. It's nothing. It's not a pronoun. But my friend, God is you. It's a spirit. It's not a man that it should lie. That's what it said in Numbers 23, verse 19, and in Hosea 11:9. For you religious people, go read your book. You can also find similar verses in John chapter 4, verse 24. You find that in there too. Because some of us, we read these things and we see some of the contradiction, the confusion, the misguided information. We see all that. And then at the end of the day, you look at yourself, you can almost see the same thing that they're telling you about. You can see it in you. You can see it in our world too. That when there's a problem, it's humans that come to the rescue. Whether it's a natural disaster, man-made disaster, most of them are man-made disaster anyway. Whether even if it comes to the climate, it's man-made. It's men that are creating this terrible weather we're having with the climate. It's man-made. Diseases, incurable diseases like COVID, Ebola, these are all man-made disease. It's not from no external forces out there want to call God, 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 especially the Africans. When something happens, you see them kneeling down and praying. You know, never seen the people so religious like that. They're so bent on, for some reason, they bought into this organized religious story, you know, that doesn't make no sense. They buy into it. These are the only people on the planet, everything they ever want, they pray for. Even a job, they pray for. Even a car, they pray for. Even a child, they pray for. You don't pray for children. The way to have a child is having sex. You have sex, you're going to have child. Just keep doing it. Keep persistency. If it doesn't come this month, try the following month. Keep trying every day and you hit the goal. And when you hit the goal pole, that thing will go straight inside. It's called biology. And the child will come into this world and looking just like you. You don't need to pray for no child. Because children don't come from God. Children come through biology. sex. When two people, they knock. When two people knock, then there's a, just like to create a fire, you have to take two wood, you spark them, you rub them together. When you rub them together, then it will create smoke, and the smoke turn to fire. It's the same thing. It takes two people to knock. When two people knock, they have sex, then there's a baby. You understand? A baby comes. And then within the womb of the woman, there's a spirit. The spirit is already in the woman. So it merges with the flesh and it became one. That's what happened. That's why I say God is you. God is a spirit. It's not a man. The Almighty is a spirit. And it's in the womb of the woman. And it comes from the womb of the woman and it enters the flesh. And they both became one. You understand? So that's what a human is. Human beings are that stuff. The spirit is in the womb of the woman. The spirit is in the dark or the deep. And there's a void. And there's water within the deep. And that water is the placenta. That whole thing in the womb of the woman is darkness. So within that darkness is a spirit. And the spirit emerges from whatever the darkness is. And it comes. I wish I can show you how to, like an animation, and show you how the whole process happens. So the flesh is right here. It's forming into human beings. And then the spirit is coming, and then it emerges in the flesh. And it becomes one. And then it comes into this world. And that spirit, man, is God. And that's you. You understand? That's what we are. We, my friends, are God. Long time ago, I won't be able to say this. They'll call me heretic. They'll call me all sort of names. I may even lose my life by saying this, but today they can. And I tell you, as we age, as technology become more advanced, all of my videos are for the future. As technology become more advanced, right? There will come a time in our world, organized religious people will phase out, because the truth is going to be right in their faces, and they won't be able to run away from it. They won't be able to even defend their so-called religious texts, because it will become so obvious. The truth now will become so obvious that they will run away from it, from their lies. And they will embrace the truth. One day, that day will come when all of these religious people run, so-called religious, organized religious people, they will run away from their lies. They will openly say it. They will say they will tell you there's no God beyond the human being. Exactly what I'm telling you. That God is not exclusive from us. We are God. We do the same thing that God does. We take away life and we give life. We destroy life and we rebuild life. Understand? We do that stuff. Some of the technology now, when you see, most of the technology that are in our world today, you haven't been exposed to them yet. When you start to see some of this technology, then you will know that humans are gods. We're so powerful that we are creating things that look and act like us. And we still don't think we are God. We're not just creating flesh to look like us. We're creating things that are not even flesh and blood, but they're reacting to us. And they're doing exactly the same thing that we do, except they're not procreating. They're not producing themselves. We are the ones that are producing them. You get it? So let me just end my video. I want to thank everyone again. I hope that you and your family are doing great. I hope that life is pleasant for you. I hope that all is well for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Have a great day. Take care of yourself and be safe. You, my friend, is God, and God is you. Don't listen to none of these organized religious people out there. They are lying, and they are lying, and one day, they themselves will run away from the lies and they will embrace the truth. Always seek the truth. Seek it, because that's how you discover yourself, by seeking the truth. Have a blessed day.